The Sacramento Kings have built their offense around an extremely simple yet nearly unstoppable play. They make really good use of Sabonis as an offensive hub, they use the threat of their shooters, and they use the speed from De'Aaron Fox and all of the cutting that they have on this roster to really maximize the talent that this offense has. The Sacramento Kings have the second best offense in the NBA, and they actually have the best offense in the league since the start of 2023. Now, when I say that their offense is built around one play, I'm talking about the dribble handoffs that they run through Domantas Sabonis. And dribble handoffs aren't necessarily anything special by themselves. As a matter of fact, there are a ton of teams that make use of dribble handoffs, and they have varying degrees of success. It's really the execution that sets the teams that are great at it apart from the teams that are, well, bad at it. A big piece of the puzzle is the personnel. Who do you have on your team that is able to execute this effectively and make it work in the first place? It really requires a relatively skilled big man to get the most out of it. Teams like Denver and Sacramento, they have Jokic, they have Sabonis. These are highly skilled big men that can initiate these handoffs really well, set really good screens, and make the plays in the first place. It also requires good shooters. The fulcrum of an effective handoff is the fact that a good shooter can get the handoff and just immediately pull the shot. If you don't have shooting threats on your roster to keep defenses honest, well, then it doesn't really matter how much you run it because the defense is just going to be able to drop back and just watch you miss a three, or they can be more prepared for when you drive since you're not going to be able to make the shot in the first place. Now, there's not a perfect correlation between good three-point shooting and effective handoff possessions, but it's still interesting to take a look at this and see what we can get out of it. It's not a coincidence that some of the best three-point shooting teams in the league are also highly effective at generating points off of handoffs. There are some exceptions like the Hornets and the Nuggets. The Hornets are really great at scoring off of handoffs, but they're terrible at shooting threes. The Nuggets are great at shooting threes, but they don't really generate a ton of points per possession off of handoffs. Boston, Philly, Golden State, and Brooklyn, they're all top 10 in three-point percentage, but they're still not quite on the level of Sacramento in terms of handoff points per possession, and this is because handoffs also require good cutting on top of good three-point shooting, and Sacramento is the best team in the league at generating points off of cuts. In this video, I want to take a look at what exactly makes Sacramento's handoffs so dangerous, diving a little bit deep into how their roster was designed and constructed around Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. So real quick, let's take a look at the advantages of dribble handoffs and why they're effective in the first place. Well, for one, a dribble handoff kind of expedites the process of a pick and roll. When you're getting into a pick and roll, the center has to come up and set the screen. The defense is already preparing to guard it. They already have a plan in place for how they're going to guard the pick and roll. And it's a lot more difficult to not telegraph exactly what you're going to be doing before you do it. But with a dribble handoff, a guard coming to receive the ball is often something that happens faster than a center coming to set a screen. The speed at which a dribble handoff unfolds really forces the defense staff to make quicker decisions, and it gives them a lot less time to prepare. And this gets turned up 10 notches when you have Fox, who is arguably the fastest player in the NBA, and Kevin Huerter, who is one of the best movement shooters in the NBA, and also an incredibly frustrating off-ball player. All right, so let's start off by just taking a look at what a standard DHO looks like. Sabonis has the ball up top. He's going to signal to Keegan Murray to come up and grab the ball, and Sabonis immediately screens for him, which leads to Murray getting an open look from three. It's pretty simple stuff. It's really not that complicated, but when you add in all the extra stuff that Sacramento does, it really makes it a lot more difficult to guard, and it gives them a ton of options to work with when they're running DHOs. So on this play, we're going to see how you can get a little bit more creative with your DHOs. Instead of just having a guy come off a screen and take a shot, you can actually use it to get into pick and rolls, which is what happens here. Sabonis immediately propels into a pick and roll when the defense is hedging against the handoff, and this forces 𝙖𝙗𝙤𝙪 to collapse in on Sabonis in the paint, with the rest of the defense collapsing pretty tight down there as well. And this is going to leave Keegan Murray wide open up top. And all of that started just from an initial DHO. It doesn't just have to immediately go into a catch and shoot shot. It doesn't just have to go into a drive to the basket. You can run other actions off of it. And because you're making the defense have to think about so much at once, it does a pretty good job of generating open looks on a consistent basis. All right, let's tie in what De'Aaron Fox does in all of this. Not a lot of people realize it, but Fox is an elite mid-range shooter this year. According to cleaningtheglass.com, he's been a 51% mid-range shooter on 9.5 attempts per game. Only Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic are shooting 51% or better from the mid-range on that level of volume. I think people get a little bit hung up on how good of a finisher Fox is, which is totally fair because he is an elite finisher, but the mid-range aspect of his game doesn't really get enough love, and it has major implications for this overall DHO aspect of their offense. When defenses are anticipating a drive when he's coming off of a handoff, he's able to instead get right into a mid-range pull-up while the defense is still dropped back in the paint, waiting to deter a shot at the rim. This also doesn't even account for the fact that teams also have to worry about stopping Sabonis on the roll when he initiates the handoff. So De'Aaron Fox usually is able to just get into a ton of open space to either get off a mid-range shot or get off a floater. It's also really tough to stop too when they get into a DHO, and Fox is going to make it look like he's going to come off of the screen and go up the middle of the floor like here, but instead he rejects the screen and then goes to the basket. It throws off the entire defense and it's basically impossible to stop. They can also make it look as if they're setting up to get into a dribble handoff. Like here with Keegan Murray, he's going to set this screen and it's going to look like De'Aaron Fox is going to come up to the top of the key and get into a handoff with Sabonis, but instead De'Aaron Fox decides to reject the screen off ball and cut right up the middle, making it really easy for Sabonis to find him in the middle of the floor for the pass. Now, another big factor at play is, of course, Kevin Huerter being an incredible shooter, and these two have some pretty amazing synergy together. Because one, Kevin Huerter can, of course, come off screens and just knock down three-pointers whenever he wants, or he can get into the mid-range and knock down shots from there, or he can come off of the screen and go to the basket and finish. But it's not just the fact that he's able to do these things that makes their synergy so good together, but it's also the fact that the threat of their handoffs alone is enough to throw the defense off. So on possessions like this, they can make it look like they're about to get into a dribble handoff, but instead he cuts to the basket, leaving his defender completely in the dust, and the defense can get so preoccupied with this that they'll completely ignore shooters like they do Keegan Murray on the perimeter here, and it leads to open kickouts and easy three-pointers. Sticking to the concept of how they use the threat of the handoff and not actually the handoff itself to generate looks, it does a good job at getting Sabonis easy driving lanes where they can fake the handoff and then the defense is going to prepare to guard the handoff, which gives Sabonis easy opportunities to go right up the middle of the floor like he does here, which oftentimes draws help defense, leading to open kickouts to the perimeter. It's just a constant manipulation of the defense, pulling them where you want them to be so that the person that you want to be open is open. And I've spent a lot of time talking about the handoff aspect of their offense, which is definitely one of the biggest facets that they have at their disposal, but really it comes down to Sabonis's passing ability and the attention that he warrants on the inside and when he's posting up. Anytime he gets the ball in the high post, defenses are immediately drawn towards him, and the Kings know what to do when that happens. They just need to find the space that was created when Sabonis got the ball in the high post and the defense honed in on him in the first place. Arguably the best thing about this offense is the fact that it's a very playoff resilient offense. They have the second best half-court offense in the NBA, scoring 103.5 points per 100 possessions. They're one of only 9 teams in the league that have an offensive rating in the half-court that's over 100. Obviously, when the game slows down in the postseason, they're going to have to rely more and more on their half-court offense, which is already proven to be very, very good at generating points. Considering right now they're fighting for a top spot in the Western Conference, I don't see them having any issue making the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how their offense holds up in the postseason, and I think the signs point to it holding up very, very well. I've got a ton more content on my Patreon, including some more film breakdowns like this one. So if you guys want to help support the channel, you can go click the link in the description to become a patron. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed to the channel. And if you're new and you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell while you're here so that you never miss another one. Appreciate all of you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.